For outside occupancy, 200 people maximum. Like for community events such as festivals, fireworks display, rodeos, sporting goods, and outdoor performances. And 100 people for indoor events, seated events, including weddings, ceremonies, funerals, movie theaters, indoor arts, cultural performances, and other indoor spectator events, which where people are to remain seated. And 50 people maximum for indoor social gatherings, including weddings and funeral receptions and birthday parties. No cap on the number of people with public health measures in place. For worship gatherings, restaurants, cafes, lounges, bars, casinos, bingo halls, trade shows, and exhibitions. All Lethbridge County has no mask bylaw. We strongly encourage everyone to wear a mask when indoors and be respectful of people's space, and please be cautious. Following these basic rules will keep everybody safe. We do not want to be the person who gives it to somebody or receives from somebody else by not following these rules. So thank you, and I hope you have a successful stay at that, or good luck with that. So thanks. So the first thing up is subdivision Lethbridge County Council minutes for August the 6th. Yes.
Sorry, who moved the approval of the agenda?
I thought Morris did that. Plus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll approve the minutes as presented.
Okay. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And you said Morris did not do the agenda? I thought you did. Yes.
We didn't vote on it.
You didn't vote on it,
I'll
sorry.
move the agenda,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Meeting at 10:30 a.m. Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Oh, so the first subdivision application is subdivision application 2019-0-017, which is one we've had before, Grisnich. And it is Hillary, you're going to take this on, are you?
I will, along with my partner in crime, Mr. Hardy.
Yes, sorry.
I just have a question, Mr. Chairman, just maybe for clarity's sake. Moving forward, is this anticipated to be the structure of our agendas, where the first meeting will be a planning meeting and the second meeting will be?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just with regards to this first.
Maybe we should have that discussion after, to make sure we're all on the same page. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, with regards to this first subdivision, this one was originally brought forward back in February, so if council would bring it back to the table, that would be appropriate.
Sorry, Hillary?
You have to bring the item back to the table. This one was tabled.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we can have a motion to bring it back to the table.
So moved.
Lawns, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Council. You may recall that this application by Mr. and Mrs. Grisnich was originally brought to your for your consideration in February. At that time, it was found that because they were creating more than 3 country residential parcels that would be adjacent to each other, they had to rezone to group country residential. So that rezoning was approved by County Council in July. And so now we're bringing back the subdivision application, which is subdivision application 2019-0-170. And it is to subdivide Lot 3, Block 1, Plan 1412687 in the Northwest 81021 west of the 4th into 2 parcels. The parcels will be 6.6 acres and 7.62 acres in size. And it does meet the criteria of the group country residential zoning and also the group country residential land use strategy. with that, I will turn it over to Steve Hardy to go through the planning comments and the recommendation.
Mr. Chair, good morning everyone. Good to see you in person once again, rather than through the screen. This application, as mentioned, had previously been tabled from February and went through the rezoning process. With regards to that, the applicants did sign a time extension with us, agreeing to extend that 60-day time-making decision that we have on subdivisions. So that agreement will expire on September 30th, so at the end of the month here. So I was able to make today's meeting. The application itself, to familiarize yourself with, again, as Isley mentioned, is to split an existing parcel and create the two parcels, the 7.62 acre lot, which will be the eastern portion that they have their new dwelling sitting on, while the west 6.0 acre portion is vacant. At the redesignation stage at the front of council there, you may remember there was a conceptual design scheme plan done for the land. This proposal that they have submitted, even previous to the concept plan, does match or conform to that conceptual design scheme. Similar to at the rezoning stage, in regards to some comments on the application, adjacent landowner to the east there did comment about the stormwater drainage situation, and they had some concerns with that. If you recall, at the public hearing on the rezoning stage, that is addressed in the conceptual design scheme, and the details of the stormwater management will be managed through the terms of the development agreement. So one of the conditions on the subdivision is going to be that they enter into a development agreement with Lethbridge County, and then the specifics of what they'd have to do for the stormwater management would be addressed in that agreement with them. In regards to servicing, the existing dwelling has potable water provided by the North County Potable Water Co-op, and they have an existing on-site private disposal system that was installed back in 2017. It will remain within the confines of that east lot, 7.62 acre lot once subdivided. The proposal is that the west lot would be serviced in the same manner. There was previous soils tests done on the land that came back positive that the new lot could be treated by on-site septic. One of the things during the circulation is that the time I prepared the agendas for you to send out, I didn't have the value back on the municipal reserve, because municipal reserve would be applicable in this case. There's a deferred reserve caveat on title, so once they pay the MROing, then that'll be discharged. The value that the MR came back at is higher than it had been back in 2013. I provided the value from back then just to give you an idea, but the MR came in at $25,000 per acre, so they would have to pay that on the parent 13.62 acre title being subdivided. So overall, the proposal does meet the group country residential criteria of the county's land use bylaw. It also conforms to the conceptual design scheme that was approved by county council at the rezoning stage. So with that, I have recommended approval to you. And the conditions on that would be that the 10% municipal reserve is paid to the county on the 13.62 acres at the market value of $25,000 per acre. And then the standard conditions that the taxes are paid and up to date. Second, that the development agreement is entered into the county. That would address the drainage, lot grading, road ditch improvements, anything that needs to be addressed in that manner. The updated surveyor sketch needs to be provided, and that the applicant themselves is responsible for meeting any requirements of agriculture and tourism. At the circulation stage, they have not yet commented or provided a response.
Can I
a question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so you said the value of that land is at $20,000 an acre?
25,000 per acre.
25,000?
Yeah.
So that's, paying that, what, how many acres, 13 and a half?
Just a little over, yes.
So they gotta pay 10% at that end to
10%, yeah.
10%,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? So Steve, that value is based on a acreage value, not a agricultural land value.
That's right, because it's been subdivided here, one of the parcels has the residence on, has the group country zoning, so it's assessed at the country residential acreage rate and not at an agricultural rate.
Any other questions? Steve, you got anything else? Ross? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Sharon. I'll move that the subdivision application number 2019-0-170 approved subject to conditions as outlined in the draft.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you. Let's move on to subdivision application 2020-0-080, Isley. It is on the southeast of 331143 west of the port.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is to take out an 8-acre farmyard, existing farmyard, from a title that is 97.51 acres in size. As you can see from the air photo and in your agenda package, the parent quarter section has been bisected not only by the rail but also by the highway. So this parcel is considered the greater portion of a cutoff that is eligible for subdivision as per the subdivision criteria of the land use bylaw. This parcel is located north of Nobleford and south of the hamlet of, village of Barons. And as you can see, it's located just on the east side of Highway 23. And so we'll go through the comments and the recommendation.
Mr. Chair, this application, as described, is to subdivide in an existing farmyard out in the east portion to create a separate title for the established residential yard. The yard contains a 2-story dwelling, there's a shop, a wood barn, corrals, and various other farm buildings on there. The yard, as it's proposed, includes a fenced-off area on the north side of the barn, which is not arable land. The existing yard, the dwelling, is serviced by a private on-site water well and an individual on-site private septic field system. Both the water well and the septic field will be within the confines of the subdivided parcel, which is required under the provincial regulations. The well won't be outside. This application, as mentioned, the parent quarter section is severed by both Highway 23 and the CPR rail line, with no direct physical access available to the west or south side due to the highway and rail, which resulted in this original cutoff parcel title. As the quarter section title severance was the result of the CPR and the provincial government and not the landowner, the landowner is eligible to subdivide an existing farmyard out of the greater size of a cutoff. During the circulation of this application, Alberta Transportation has no objections or concerns with the proposal, because the access is off the east municipal county road allowance and not directly to the highway. As well, during the circulation, none of the utility companies have concerns or require anything. With this proposal, municipal reserve is applicable. And the value of this, unlike the last one, because this is agricultural zone land with an existing farmstead come up, so the assessment's done at the agricultural rate. So this value came in at $3,000 per acre, which you'd have to pay on the 8 acres. So with that, there was no objections or concerns expressed during the circulation period. As it does comply with the land use bylaw for the subdivision of a farmstead, being from the greater half of a cut-off fragmented parcel as defined by the county bylaw, I have recommended an approval to you, and that would be based on the conditions of the municipal reserve payment being paid on the 8 acres, the taxes being paid in up-to-date development agreement entered into with the county if required, a final plan of survey submitted, and then fourth, I just had a blanket condition on there for any easements required by the utility agencies. When I sent it out to you, we still haven't heard back from Alta Lake, but Telus and Forest don't require anything, but those would be the conditions on there on an approval.
Any questions? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant didn't want to follow the, kind of the edge of the field outlines instead of going the square route like they did. Because it's taking a little more cropland than what would be necessary, I would think.
They're going straight up versus following this one.
Yeah, they're just squaring it off and then squaring it off at the north side for the barn. I guess they had talked with the neighbor who's buying the land, and just the way they wanted the yard and the way that the guy who's gonna purchase it, that's what they agreed would work for the both of them. So-
Okay.
And then that triangle piece at the end there, yeah, they're gonna exclude that. It's not in the parcel, and the guy's gonna farm that part.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So Steve, when we had that subdivision, more than a few years ago, I guess, where the house was built there just off of the highway, between the highway and the railroad tracks,
The one at the bottom there?
did they pay reserve on that too? At that time when they,
No, they didn't.
That was because it was another cutoff.
Yeah, so that's why, because that one was subdivided, so now that's why these people, they have to pay the municipal reserve, because even though they're eligible to subdivide here from the greater half, because they didn't create the cutoff, but it is more than one subdivision out of the quarter section, it's just that first one that's exempt.
So this is the second subdivision, technically.
Pause.
Thank you. So you gotta pay the reserve if you subdivide one at once?
Yes.
That's when it starts?
Yeah.
Unless, I'll clarify, unless it's a parcel 40 acres or more used for agriculture, then you don't. But if it's below 40 acres and not used for agriculture, then you do have to. And that's not the county, that's laid out in the Municipal Government Act. It's not a county policy, that's a provincial policy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We did a motion now. Yep, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move subdivision application 2020-0-80 for approval.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Don't know whether we have time to do one more for a public hearing or not.
This is a first parcel out of a homestead, out of a quarter, so it's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I guess we could try it.
Alright, so this application, 2020-0-085, is to subdivide out a 4.99 acre first parcel out of a quarter section for country residential use. This application does meet the criteria of the county's subdivision criteria. It is located about 3.5 miles southwest of the town of Coaldale and about a half mile south of Highway 512. And you can see from the ortho and your agenda package on the the configuration and the location of their requested subdivision, which is right where the yard is. Steve will go through the comments and the recommendation.
As mentioned, Mr. Chair, this parcel is a first parcel up farmstead subdivision from the quarter section. The applicants have come back after 35 years to reapply. They had applied and got an approval back in 1985 for this, and then they never went through with it and registered it. So here, 35 years after the fact, they've come now to resurrect it, so to speak. So it is a subdivision of an existing farmyard. There's a 2-story house on there, a barn, some grain bins, a few tin-sided barns. As you note, the proposed yard area shape accounts for the jobs around 2 dugouts at the north end that are going to remain on the agricultural remnant land title for the quarter section. And they also have kind of angled on the one side to account for the irrigation pivot on the land. The proposed southeast boundary is set there so that it meets the provincial septic field setback requirements. So it's set at the 1.52 meters, so that we're in compliance with the provincial legislation. So it is the first parcel out of the yard there. They're trying to take that area outside the pivot and just include the main yard buildings. There is a CFO situated to the southeast and the northeast of 28,819. The applicable minimum distance separation is met, as a distance of 324 meters is required and well over 1,000 meters exists. The applicants themselves, on their own barns and such here, they had previously have turned in their permits for any livestock and that sort of thing, so they don't have any livestock permits themselves for the couple of barns and stuff they have on their title. So during the circulation of this application, there was no objections received, no special requirements by any of the utility companies. As a first parcel out subdivision at the 4.99 acres, it complies with your subdivision criteria. So I have recommended approval to you with the conditions of just that the taxes are paid up to date and the development agreement is entered into with the county if the county requires something in that regards. So it will only be those 2 basic conditions is all we need on this one. So with that, I have recommended approval to you on those 2 conditions.
Any questions? None? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the recommendation that subdivision application 2020-0-085 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution.
Any further discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we better move down to public hearings. So, because we're not quite sure if people are going to be coming into the meeting, we're going to open them both at once. And we won't close them. We will have a recess for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, half an hour, and then go back to them when that time period has gone by. Okay, so any thoughts on that? Okay, let's have a motion to open 2 public hearings. So. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Council. So today we have 2 public hearings. I'll go through, the first one is Bylaw 20-015, which is an amendment to the Lethbridge County Town of Coaldale Intermunicipal Development Plan. The Lethbridge County and Town of Coaldale administration agreed that the intermunicipal development plan, which was originally approved in 2010, required updates to better reflect the current provincial regulations, the updated municipal boundaries, and general updates that will facilitate more efficient communication between the two municipalities. Specifically, the amendments address the following. Changes to the municipal boundaries due to the approved annexation by the Town of Coaldale that came into effect on April the 1st of 2018. Addition of future non-residential areas within Lethbridge County along Highway 3 west of the town boundary, as per a memorandum of agreement between the town and the county. That was part of the annexation. To ensure that intermunicipal development plan complies with all provincial legislation, including the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, the Modernized Municipal Government Act, and updated subdivision and development regulations. Update the Lethbridge County name. It was changed in December of 2013 from County of Lethbridge to Lethbridge County. And to update the referral policies that are contained within the municipal development plan to provide consistency with regards to intermunicipal referrals throughout the region. What we did is, with just on that one specifically, is we wanted to, that one was there was quite a bit of difference between that one and what we had done for our other intermunicipal development plans. And so the town was agreeable to making it consistent for all of the municipalities that Lethbridge County has dealings with, so that there'd be less confusion of who does what and when. So that was why we specifically, the county specifically asked for that change to make it a little bit easier for our staff to handle. The detailed amendments are included in the supporting documents to this report. So in the actual bylaws itself, you'll find all of the various changes. A lot of them are somewhat minor in nature. We added text, we changed all the maps, and then we changed obviously the county's name and the municipal boundaries. The proposed bylaw was advertised in the August 11th and 18th editions of the Sunny South News. I received one phone call and one email, just with regards to the advertising that was put out, both just asking for additional information. So I directed them to the agenda package that was on the county's website, where we detailed out the exact changes that were being made to the intermunicipal development plan, and I didn't receive any further comments beyond that. I know that the town will be presenting their public hearing on their next meeting in September here, which I do believe is on the September the 13th. So, so we tried to coordinate them so that they would be kind of approved, hopefully approved at the same time. With regards to some alternatives, the county council could refuse the amendments as proposed if there is concerns with the policy direction within this document. But we did go through these amendments with the committee members, the intermunicipal committee members, and they were supportive of those changes that we are proposing. I know that was quite a while back. I do believe that was back in February, but the committee did review these amendments as proposed and were agreeable to them, and the town's committee members were also agreeable to those amendments. Or requesting these changes is that we do need to be in line with our provincial documentation, so that there's consistency between what is actually in the provincial regulations and what is in our municipal regulations. Also, with regards to the annexation, those town boundaries it's important that we have those reflected, and also with that memorandum of understanding that agreed to having the county have some more commercial adjacent to the town boundary. Those are very important for the county from an economical standpoint too, just to allow for more development that is non-agricultural. Also, with regards to approving this, if for some reason this proposed changes aren't approved, we might have to do a more comprehensive review, and at this time we feel that these documents, or the proposed amendments adequately, they suit both the needs of the town and the county at this time. We do envision that in the next couple years, that we will probably want to do a complete overhaul of this plan. With the town redoing their municipal development plan, there might be some initiative on their end to maybe to do some more changes, but this will carry us over for the next, hopefully 3 to 5 years, and then we'll look at doing those amendments, a larger review of that whole IDP in the future. With regards to financial impacts, there are no financial impacts with regards to the proposed amendments. These amendments provide the opportunity for some more industrial and commercial development on the west side of the town, but any proposal would require rezoning and consideration from county council and also the town as to what would be put in that particular area. So there's opportunities, but no tangible financial implications at this time. So with that, I have recommended that second and third reading of the bylaw be approved by county council. Are there any questions about the proposed amendments or anything with regards to the process?
Questions? Has Coaldale given it second and third reading yet? No.
They had first reading at the same time we had first reading in July, and their public hearing and second and third reading will be, I do believe, on September the 13th.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll ask if there's anybody present who wishes to speak against the amended changes. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak against? And last call, someone present who wishes to speak against. Anyone present who wishes to speak in favor? Anyone present who wishes to speak in favor? And last call, anybody present who wishes to speak in position? You are, please give us a call at 403-328-5525. That's 403-328-5525. And we can take down your comments, and when we resume the hearing process, we will take those into account then. So let's move on now to bylaw 20-016, and that's the amendment to land use bylaw for urban fringe to group country residential.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this second bylaw I'm presenting is for bylaw 20-016, which is to amend the zoning for the most northern portion of Plan 770AU Block Z in the Northwest 21, west of the 4th, from Lethbridge Urban Fringe to Group Country Residential. This application was read for a first time on August the 6th. And with regards to the background, this application was received for the rezoning, which is in line with the area structure plan that was approved by County Council back in 2017. The applicant has submitted a comprehensive package to County Administration to support their application for rezoning, which includes a site suitability assessment, a traffic impact assessment, and a stormwater management plan. Included in the attachments is a summary of the supporting documents from the engineer that was overseeing the rezoning application. That was MPE Engineering. The full reports are available as required. It was about 200 pages of technical information, so we decided not to include those specifically. Lots of tables. The application has been circulated to all the county departments and external agencies for review. No concerns were expressed by any internal department, external agency, or the city of Lethbridge. The individual comments have been attached to this report. I should have mentioned this before, but this particular rezoning, the district where it's located, is also, it has to follow the intermunicipal development plan that we have with the city of Lethbridge. And so it was important to get comments and send them all of that, those technical documents over to the city. And we followed what we said we would provide, and the city was, had no concerns with regards to anything in this particular, application itself. So, that was, shows us that the process is working and that, we're working together as a region in terms of this type of development. The planning department has the following comments with regards to the proposed application. The area has been identified for future subdivision and development through the approval of the Section 26 area structure plan. The applicant has submitted the information required as per that area structure plan, and it is fairly comprehensive. The information was reviewed and approved by the infrastructure manager, so such things as the TIA, the stormwater management plan, were specifically looked at internally to ensure that they comply with all of the county's requirements for infrastructure. The proposed rezoning meets the criteria for the group country residential land use strategy. The lands contained within the proposed redesignation are fragmented by previous subdivisions, and as such are not considered high quality agricultural land. The parcel is located near an urban center, being the city of Lethbridge, and it has an approved area structure plan, which is required for subdivisions consisting of 5 or more lots. It is not located in an area where there has been any other land use conflicts such as feedlots or floodplains or industrial uses. A detailed stormwater management plan and soils analysis was completed for the parcel and approved by the county. There is an existing public road to the parcel, and individual approaches will be are proposed for each subdivided parcel off of that existing township road. It was noted that there is no access to potable water from the water co-op at this time, which is somewhat contrary to our group country residential land use strategy. It is anticipated that once water units become available from the County Lethbridge South Water Co-op, that they would be able to connect into that. The area structure plan that was approved by County Council in 2017 did state that the provision of water from the water co-op is preferred, but it is at the discretion of the county if hauled water will be approved for any subdivision in this area. So the area structure plan, which is the guiding policy document, does allow for the ability for these lots to not be connected to the water co-op at this time. I know that in discussions with the water co-op, they did say that when they're looking at getting more water license, that they actually contacted the county to see where development was going to be occurring in their particular area, and this was an area of particular interest to them because we have an approved plan, so they know that it's kind of they know that there's going to be a number of lots that will be created in the future, which will help them hopefully obtain their water license that they require. If the proposed bylaw is approved by County Council, the applicant would have to ensure, as a condition of the subdivision, that the servicing of the lots, as well as any drainage and or road issues have been addressed to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works and the Infrastructure Manager through a development agreement. This is typical for our subdivision applications, as you're probably aware. The proposed rezoning was advertised in the August 11th and 18th editions of the Sunny South News. There was one call that came in, and I know that Larry and Selena were able to speak to the individual just with regards to the proposed rezoning. They're in the area. They weren't directly adjacent to this area, but they just wanted to ensure that the plan was being followed and that their lands weren't going to be affected by this development. Because of where this is located, their lands aren't included in the rezoning or any of the infrastructure required to service this area, so at this point in time they are not affected. With regards to the alternatives, with regards to this application, County Council may deny second reading of the bylaw if there are concerns with the proposed land use amendment and subsequent subdivision. This would be contrary to the approved area structure plan, which allows for the rezoning and subdivision of the parcels within Section 26 for country residential use. And the fact that they have put in, they provided all the documentation required to facilitate development and show that it's feasible to do this development in this area. if this bylaw were ultimately approved, the applicant would apply for subdivision of 7 country residential parcels. And that would be taxed at the county's residential tax rate upon development of each of those parcels. So there are some, because the county would have to take over the stormwater management facility that would go into this area, but there is existing infrastructure, which is to the county's benefit, using an existing road, that we already maintain, so there's some efficiencies, which we would see in terms of this development going forward. The reasons for, the recommendation is that second and third reading of the bylaw be approved by county council for the reasons that the proposed zoning does meet the requirements of the municipal development plan, the group country residential land use strategy, and also the section 26 area structure plan. Are there any questions of county council on this report or any of the supporting documentation?
Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I might have missed it, you might have said it, but the county paid for the area structure plan, right?
That's correct.
And are whoever that has a subdivision or a development down there, they gotta pay towards that then?
Yeah, it's part of the development agreement.
Yeah.
We did a high-level report for here for the area structure plan, and it was done mostly in-house. So there were some engineering costs, but those will be part of the development agreement as part of that cost recovery, absolutely.
Just in curiosity, how much is that per lot, do you know? Or what did we spend there again? How much was it again?
It was for the entire section, so for the 640 acres, I do believe it came to $15,000. So splitting that amongst all the properties, it'll be fairly nominal for each
Yeah.
parcel.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Klaus.
Just out of curiosity, the Southwater Co-op, do they have water available yet, or do they have access licensing yet?
Thank you, Councilor Vanderbeek through the chair. No, they haven't obtained their additional water licenses yet, but I know that they are actively working towards that. Like I said, they actually called me and asked me where development was going to be happening. I do believe they might be working with Devin also, maybe? No? Anyways, I did talk to them about that, about where we had proposed that new development will be happening, and so this being one of the areas that we're keen on focusing in on. And so, but I'm not sure where they're at. It was probably a month or two ago that I talked to them already, so, but I know that that's something that they're actively looking towards because they know that there's a demand for that particular utility.
Any other questions? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is their plan for the lot configuration similar to what's across the road to the north?
These lots will be slightly larger.
Okay.
They're just over 4 acres, under 5 acres each. And that's because in the area structure plan, we said the lots had to be between 4 and 5 acres, just because of the lot density for the entire area. We wanted to manage that, and also there is the water table and drainage consideration. So they won't quite match. They'll be a little bit larger, but
Okay.
similar to.
And then on the east portion of the area, that's gonna be the stormwater, or
That's
some kind of
correct.
stormwater
Yeah,
management?
where they have their existing dugout now, you can kind of see there's existing dugout, there's a bit of a drain. You can see lightly on the ortho photo. This is the low spot for the entire section.
Oh, okay.
And so this is kind of like the cornerstone for development in this entire area. Because all the water flows in this direction through the entire section, so this stormwater pond is a key component in terms of future development happening. But yes, it'll go in that area, just, no, it won't go right to the eastern edge, it'll be kind of more, a little bit offset from that, but that's where that will be.
And then water's released from there to the north?
That's
Would
correct.
go, okay.
Yeah, and that's through our agreements that we have, between Alberta Environment and, the SMRI.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Tori?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hillary, just in the comments from the city of Lethbridge, they just noted some possible concerns moving forward regarding Highway 4, Range Road 212. Was that kind of more just as a starting point on that conversation moving forward, that might be an issue moving forward, or how would you characterize that?
Yeah, we've had these discussions with the city through the IDP and also, when they've done their own planning work along 43rd Street and Highway 4. They've always said that this area is an area where they could potentially see the, access being changed. It would cut off access. There is a service road. It's just, I'll show you where it is. What they're talking about is this access point down here, is that this might be changed so that they would have to just access on the service road. There's a service road that goes, pretty much all the way along, Highway 4, so that would probably be utilized instead of a direct access onto that road there. So that's what I understand is what they're talking about. The way they worded it, I didn't like the way they worded it. They made it sound like, oh, we're gonna cut off your access. No, they're not cutting off access. They would be changing, redirecting access, so people would have to access earlier onto that particular roadway, so. But it is something that we have been in discussion with, but this by no means is a formal discussion. I would say that they would, if they were actually going to do something when they have their formal engineering, construction, design, drawings, whatever they are, then they would have to, through our IDP, they have to have those conversations with us, with how they're going to facilitate access into the county. So, but yeah, it's a comment that we're familiar with. So.
Thank you.
So Hillary, are you meaning, the intersection there that comes out just by mid-B topsoil on 50?
Yeah, that's correct.
The 50, whatever there.
Yeah, they're,
Fourth or,
it's Range Road 212, they're 58th Street.
right, okay, 50.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's Evergreen Golf Course, and
Mhm.
it's just, on the other side. Right now, that service road kind of, it doesn't actually, well, no, it does go through, so it's, it would just be the actual intersection with Highway 4 that they would wanna change, just in terms of, limiting egress and entry onto the highway, or kind of funneling it to one main point. Probably at a set of lights.
Oh, because there's this road going south on the other side, so I'm just kind of
That's-
curious why you would.
That's where their new neighborhood, that's directly, you can kind of see that their new neighborhood is here on,
Right.
whatever, Southbrook. This whole area is part of a larger planning exercise for the city, and their main road is actually going to be, abutting our county road. So our county road on this side will act as a service road, and their main road is actually going to go right through Dennis, or,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So this is where their main road, and that's why they say that this interchange will probably change.
I understand what
Yeah.
you mean now, yeah. Steve?
Yeah, I will point out though that the city won't call the shots on that though. The county is active player with Alberta Transportation, because that road's actually on the county's side of the boundary, not the city's. And Alberta Transportation has jurisdiction on that side. So you are an active participant player in there with Alberta Transportation, because the city only has control over on the city side. So they'll have to consult and work with the county and Alberta Transportation on that. Because that road, as you see, the access is actually on the county side, it's not on the city side. That's where the line starts, the boundary of the city. So you will have to be part of that process with them, so they can't entirely call it the shots.
We're not anticipating this is gonna be something imminent in terms of, development happening, in the city, because they're kind of working, they have a phase plan. So when they get closer to once their development starts moving further to the east, then further consultation will happen. And the city's been pretty good about, once development starts getting to those levels, that they do have, they start engaging the public, engaging the county, and Alberta Transportation at a higher level. So this is just kind of the FYI for now, just so that we're aware of it.
Okay. Any other questions? So is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to the project? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition? Anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition? Anyone present who wishes to speak in favor? Yes, Mr. Howe.
Yes,
Come, you have to come up here. We can't hear you.
I'd just like to offer it.
No, just have a seat right here.
I got a mic and everything.
You do.
I'd just like to say it's been a long road, to hoe to get this subdivision, trying to get it going. But I think it's gonna be, it's gonna turn out really well. A win-win situation, I'd like to say.
Yeah. Is this
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
A win-win situation.
Okay.
Sorry,
There we go.
There you go,
There.
yeah, we can hear you better, yeah.
These things don't help.
No,
No.
for sure. Anyways, nothing else further to add, just I think it's gonna work out really good.
Okay. Any questions? sir?
I'm in favor.
Any questions for Mr. Howe? No, thanks, okay. So, anyone else present who wishes to speak in favor? And last call, anyone else present who wishes to speak in favor? So anyone who wants to speak in opposition or in favor, please call us at 403-328-5525. Again, that's 403-328-5525. And we will give you half an hour after we recess the meeting to speak again, or for or against either of the bylaws. That's the Coaldale, Lethbridge, or County of Lethbridge, Coaldale Intermunicipal Development Plan Amendment, or the area of section 26 change to group country residential. Now, require a motion to recess the public hearing for half an hour. Applause. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll just have to keep you informed unless you want to stay, whatever you'd like to do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay?
Take my leave.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, let's do, subdivision application 2020-0-86 Withage Portion of 280920 Western Forest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the final subdivision for today. And it is to subdivide out, actually it's a lot reconfiguration, would be more accurate. They would, the applicants would like to take out a 15.14 acre parcel from the 80-acre title and then consolidate the remainder of that acres, being 64.36 acres, to the agricultural title to the east. So enlarging that one to be 144.36 acres in size. The applicant is wishing to, as you can see from the air photo and from the drawings that are in the agenda package, they would like to square off their particular area where their house is. They have an established tree line, a dugout that they use for irrigation purposes, and then keeping a small area of, I think it's a hay crop in there for their use. So they would like to go above the maximum 10-acre parcel size to be have a 15.14 acre parcel size. I'll leave the rest of the comments and the recommendation for Steve.
Mr. Chair, this application, as noted, it's a kind of a two-part subdivision. It's to create the separate title for that yard at the very south end there, which is an older farmstead yard that's been there since about the 1940s. And then the second part of that is to consolidate the agricultural land on the north side in the west half over to the east 80-acre portion. Right now, currently, that quarter section has two 80-acre titles there. It's split in half. The proposed smaller parcel is an existing farmstead that contains a dwelling, garage shop building Quonset, grain bins. There's the tree shelter belt on there, the dugout. The septic system for the dwelling is located on the west side of the yard, west of the trees, in that kind of grassed area on the west side, so that has to be included in the subdivision, so it remains with the dwelling. The physical access, as you can see, is provided to the south to Municipal Road, Township Road 9-4. The applicants are requesting a parcel size waiver. It's 10 acres is your maximum parcel size, so anything above the 10 acres, you as the subdivision authority have to approve a waiver for that. As Hillary explained there, and you can see on the air photo, what they'd like to do is, and I guess the agreement they made with the east landowner as well, who's going to buy the agricultural land to consolidate to them, is they just want to square it off straight east to west. That grassed area is fenced as well. They kind of, it's hard to see in the photo, but there is actually kind of a driveway that runs east-west between the field and the yard to the south. And they want the property line just on the north side of that kind of trail, dirt driveway that kind of runs between the field and the yard to the south there. With this application, there are no abandoned gas wells located in proximity. There is an 11,000 head beef finishing operation located to the east, that'd be Casco's feedlot. The application does meet the minimum distance separation. The numbers we've got from the NRCB, that a distance of 703 meters is required and an actual distance of 835 meters exists to the dwelling. So it does meet that. Even if it didn't, it is noted that this yard was established 1940 and existed prior to the MDS regulations coming into effect and the CFO being established to the east of them. However, it does meet the applicable MDS, so that's not an issue. During the circulation of this application, there were no objections or concerns received. One utility company, Gas, does require an easement to be registered with the subdivision. So the main consideration here for the subdivision authority is whether you see merit in this east portion being included in the yard and just running that line straight across. As mentioned, this area here has their septic in. This area here with the west over to the trees here, when I measured up, is almost exactly the 10 acres. And then adding this other part over here to the current title, the half line of the quarter section that they currently have, increases that to the just over 15 acres. If a portion was to be excluded, this would be the portion that would be recommended to cut out, because this site has the septic and the dugout on. Now the applicants have requested, because they have this fenced along here, and like I said, they kind of have an access that runs here, they would like this to be the division line. So on that, that is what they've requested. Like I said, to do that, it would require a waiver. You see on the draft that I have prepared for you, the one I sent for the agenda, I do have it based on the granting of the waiver. Under informative B, it has the note on there, the subdivision authority granted waiver the maximum parcel size in accordance with section 654(2) of the MGA. So that's the section that allows you as a subdivision authority, if you see merits in the proposal, you can grant a waiver of the parcel size. Yeah, so that's what we say is a measurable standard, and you can waive that. Based on their application. Now, I originally presented this to you on the basis that and just looking at the land and the difference between the crop and what they have here in the fence. And they are consolidating the ag land over to the other 80 acres to make one larger agricultural entity on that basis. But that is one of the items you have to discuss. I did bring with me a second resolution that just has, if you didn't approve the waiver, that you only approve the maximum 10-acre parcel size, but they'd have to exclude the 5 acres out of there. So I brought that as a backup here, whatever. But in looking at the land and what they're doing with the consolidation, the resolution I did present to you was the one with the parcel size waiver. So with that, with the consolidation, in the end here, it's a reconfiguration of titles subdivision. We're starting with 2 titles currently in the quarter section, and in the end with the consolidation, we'll end up with 2 titles. Instead of 2 80s, we'll have a yard, and then the larger agricultural piece. So I've recommended approval to you with the conditions of taxes paid up to date, a development agreement entered into if required, a updated surveyor sketch be provided, and based on what you approved here today as well, and then a final plan of survey as well provided from the surveyor, which includes the consolidation of the agricultural land in the west 80 over to the east 80 acre title, so it can't be re-subdivided without your approval, and that the easement utility right of way is required by Aquagas be established. On the draft resolution too, I had a blanket easement there, because by the time I sent out these to you a couple weeks ago, I didn't have all the utility company comments back, but since we have since, and Aquagas is the only one required. So that's the draft resolution that I have presented to you.
Any questions? So Steve, if you allow the 15 acre subdivision and amalgamate the other titles, then you can't re-subdivide on the bigger piece again, can you?
No.
So, but if he takes 15 acres on the proposed deal, he could subdivide off the piece on the, I'm guessing it's the west side, the blank part there?
Yeah.
Would that go?
Well, yeah, sometimes you'd be eligible for that resplit, but in this case, you actually wouldn't be able to do that unless he came back to you and you gave another waiver. The reason for that is that when we looked at this, because that's one of the initial concerns I had too, and I looked at it, but because of Casco's feedlot, if he went to resplit, he goes from the basic category to the higher category of MDS for the multi-lot, and then he wouldn't be able to meet the MDS. So whether it's 10 acres or 15 acres, he won't be able to come back and re-subdivide that, because the MDS distance required would go up and he can't meet it. He only meets it for the single parcel here. So either way, he wouldn't be able to do a resplit, of course, unless he applied, which he has the right to do, and came and asked you for a waiver and you guys agreed to do that and give it to him, just like anybody else can do that. But it wouldn't be able to meet the minimum distance separation for him to do that. So in a sense, it wouldn't be able to be re-subdivided.
Yes, well, I know the place pretty well, and I would like to approve the application 2020-0086 with all the parcel and size waiver and
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. I guess we could have a break there. Sure. Till 10:30?
things.
Okay, you can have 10 minutes and we'll talk.
Yeah.
Karen. Does council have any other questions? Seeing none, and there were no comments came in, could we have a motion to close both public hearings? 25th, okay, Bob. 20-015 and 20-016 to close. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so, having heard that, bylaw 20-015 is the amendments to the Lethbridge County and the Town of Coaldale Intermunicipal Development Plan, and the public hearing has been held, and we have had no comments. So, would somebody like to move second reading? Pause. Any discussion? Call the question, those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we'd like to do third. Joyce? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question, those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Bylaw 20-015 is carried. Now, bylaw 20-016, received no comments, and we had one person speak in favor during session. Are there any other questions or comments? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move second reading of bylaw 20-16, amendment to the land use bylaw, Lethbridge Urban Fringe to group country residential.
Any questions on that? None, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Wish to go to third? Bob? Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Bylaw 20